Whether building a new rig or just modifying your existing PC, we're always looking for that extra flair. You have all the LED fans and case lights you need, but what about the case itself? Custom PC cases can cost a fortune, and while stock PC cases, particularly the high-end ones, can look awesome themselves, they typically only come in one or two colors. In this video, I'll show you how I turned a stock PC case into an awesome, personalized, unique look to complete your setup. Let's start the show. For this project, you're going to need a few basic supplies. Obviously, you'll need paint. I went with Rust-Oleum paint and primer. For this case, I chose purple to go for a white and purple color scheme. You'll also need clear coat. I chose a clear gloss to seal in and protect the paint and give the case a nice and shiny look. You'll also need painter's tape. Make sure you get a decent painter's tape to avoid any bleed through during the painting. You may want to get a few different sizes depending on what you'll need to tape off to make things easier. You'll also need sandpaper. Depending on the surface you're planning to paint, you may need to sand it down for an even surface for the paint to adhere to. Let's get into how this is done. First, completely unplug the computer and all peripherals, and then move it to a safe location to begin working on. Next, carefully remove the side panel by taking out the screws and unplug the side-mounted fan from the motherboard if you have one. Next, pop off the front panel from the PC's face. Take your time to undo any clips or screws that may be holding it in place to prevent any damage. You will want to remove any moving parts such as the power switch and reset buttons, as well as removing anything you can detach that you don't want painted. In this case, I removed the clear plastic LED indicators as well. You will want to ensure that the surface you're going to paint is clean and free of debris. I find that a damp washcloth works best for cleaning. Finish off with a tack cloth to remove any unwanted dust. You can find tack cloths in the paint section of any hardware store. Now for the tedious part. You're going to want to tape off the areas that will be painted. Take extra care to make sure you stick down the tape completely. Using a credit card or other similar object helps a lot. I also recommend folding the ends of the tape back onto themselves whenever possible to make removing it later a lot easier. Once you have neatly taped off the area around where you want to paint, the larger exposed areas can be covered with newspaper or other similar object. I would recommend using a non-permeable material such as tinfoil to minimize bleed through. Now it's time to paint. Make sure you put down plenty of cardboard to protect the surface of wherever you paint. Also, it's very important to paint in a well-ventilated area and wear a proper respirator to avoid inhalation of the spray paint. Start by holding the can 8 to 10 inches away and use a quick sweeping motion, doing quick but steady passes over the PC. You will need to do 4 to 6 coats for a nice even paint job. Also, be sure to change the angle you paint each coat to ensure you get all the nooks and crannies. When applying the paint, it's important to let the paint dry in between coats. With this paint, 15 minutes between coats was enough. Before applying the clear coat, however, I gave the paint 2 hours for the paint to dry completely and have time to cure. Apply the clear coat using the same method as the paint. 4 coats should do it here, but you can add more for durability if you choose. Give the paint 24 hours to dry to ensure it cures up nicely. Now all that's left is to carefully remove the tape and inspect your work. If you have any overspray, you can remove it by gently scraping it with a sharp knife or very lightly sanding it with high grit sandpaper, while being very careful not to scratch the surface underneath. All that's left to do now is reassemble the case, step back, and admire the badass new one-of-a-kind case you created for yourself. I should note that I did not sand this case because the surface I was painting over was already in good shape for painting. Use your best judgment when making that decision. I did use a fine grit sandpaper to remove some overspray from the case. I hope this video helps you create the custom case you've always wanted. Like this video if you found it helpful. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and as always, thanks so much for joining me on the Brain Bean Gaming channel.